If you have ongoing exposure to controlling people, it's a virtual certainty that you're going to experience blurry boundaries, which is why I've created the extensive online course called This Is Me, Establishing Boundaries with the Controllers in Your Life. There's a link below that will give you all of the details, and I hope that you would find it therapeutic. One of the defining traits of narcissism is the lack of empathy. Whenever narcissists approach you, they have an attitude of superiority. They're very self-impressed. They want to be in control. And in their mind, it's like, well, there are feelings and needs and opinions that people have. But the bottom line is, the only ones that matters is me, what comes from me. I don't care about you. And so they don't really have any regard for who you are and what you feel. That's part of their narcissistic pattern. Now, let's keep in mind, though, that narcissists are also schemers. Many narcissists are smart enough to know that if they give the appearance of having empathy, then they can kind of gain an inroad with you, and then after they've got you on the hook, then they can do whatever they want to do to manipulate you and use you in whatever way they want to do. And that's what we refer to as dark empathy. It's the appearance of tuning into you. It's the appearance of feeling with you, only for you to then to find out that there are dark and sinister schemes behind the scenes that are eventually going to emerge. As a simple example, I remember talking with a young man, and during the dating time that he had with his now wife, she was very tuned in and very kind and very encouraging and wanted to know all sorts of things about who he was. And then 2 or 3 months into the marriage, then he found out your friends are no good, your family's not welcome around here, there's a certain way we're going to do things. The appearance of empathy gave way to the dark, controlling schemes of this new wife that he had. Or I've talked with individuals and multiple times where you might make a friend with somebody, and that friend is a confidant, and it's somebody that you share with on a deep personal level, and that person seems to be very interested in you. But then something happens, you don't please that individual, and it turns out that they wind up using all of this personal sharing against you, and they ruin your reputation, or they take things out of context to build themselves up at your expense. Or let's say you have a family situation where inside the family you wind up sharing and knowing each other's personal stuff, and it seems as though we're all, one for all and all for one, but then something goes wrong, and then the narcissistic person comes along and it's like, I know some things about you that I don't think you want to get out now, do you? And so they wind up using their insider information in a way that maintains control over you. I mean, it's very insidious the way that it works. Narcissists can be looking for an inroad, and with their dark empathy, they pull you in, and then once they pull you in, they've got you. Now, there are several different ways that we can spot a person who's using dark empathy. Many times it's not until after the fact, but there are some signs that indicate that this is what's going on. For example, one of the things that we know about people who use dark empathy is they look for loyalty, and they have a being into you kind of experience way too quickly. They move in and they want to be your best friend, or they want to be your confidant in such a way that it's like, wow, that happened pretty quickly. And it's like they don't want to allow the time to germinate for a relationship to mature in a normal kind of timing. They're a little bit too needy. They're a little bit too hungry to be an insider with you. In addition, when they offer you admiration, or if they offer you affirmation, this is another sign, they can be a little bit too over the top, or a little bit too seductive and flattering. oh, you're one of the nicest people that I've ever met. I don't know if I've ever known anybody that was so caring and kind as you, and they can be really into you. And you're over there thinking, wow, this is really nice. Only later on you find out that they're BS artists. Or as time goes on, they can pretty quickly start calling in favors. It's like, well, now that you and I are close, now that you and I are friends, could you do this for me? And you're thinking, I'm not comfortable with that. Or it may be that that they're going to want you to introduce them to individuals. Hey, make sure that I know these people. You put a good word in for me over there. And it's like, well, I don't want to be somebody that just does things just to prop you up, but they're actually looking for you to be an enabler, and it begins to show in this kind of way. Another sign that you can watch for that says that a person is probably using dark empathy is as you get to know them, you're going to find that they have a history of lots of broken relationships, but then they will describe themselves as simply a misunderstood good person. And so over time, it's like, well, you know, whatever happened to your relationship with this person over here? It's like, I tuned into that person, but they stepped all over me. They always have an excuse. They're always blame shifting and finding fault in everybody else. And then guess what? You're going to be next. They lock in with people, and then they don't take responsibility for whatever strain might come between them and others. And then over time, that warmth and that friendliness and that into you kind of experience that they start with starts turning cold. That person who was engaging with you and wanted you to think that you were really, on the inside with them, it's like, no, I can only keep this up for so long. And they can very quickly and easily start cutting you off. And you begin realizing, well, all of that friendliness, that empathy, that kindness was just nothing more than an acting job. They are people who have a superficial, short-term display of goodness and decency, when in fact, there's not an inner goodness that backs it up. Now, I know that most of you who are non-narcissistic, you want to think the best of people. You don't want to just be so jaded that when someone comes along and they're friendly, it's like, okay, what are you up to? But unfortunately, when we are dealing with individuals who have a strong narcissistic bent, we really do need to have a sense of, let's just call it discernment. Can we say that? And that's not the same as being jaded. And we need to recognize that there are these individuals who will play the empathy card, but like I say, it's only a ruse. And then once you're on to them, once you begin seeing what's happening and how they're really playing you, and then if you somehow let it be known that you are onto them, you're going to need to prepare yourself for what comes next. Now, remember I mentioned that as they talk about some of their history of being the misunderstood good person, well, that's what they're going to do with you now. When you begin thinking, hey, wait a minute, you seem to be this way, but now it's not quite as good as you wanted it, as you purported it to be, they can come back. It's like, all I can do is as much good as I can do, and you just don't appreciate it. And so you don't know me, you don't care about me, and they make you to be the problem, and they turn you into the schemer. It's like, you were just using me all along, weren't you? And it's classic projection, by the way. They project onto you the stuff that they won't take care of within themselves. And just as you can look back and see that they had a kind of a too good to be true kind of beginning with you, you're going to then notice that once there's a breakup or there's some disagreements, then it's like, this is worse than I thought. It's going to be from one extreme to the other. And that person is going to be way more vindictive than you would ever have thought. Their disconnect from you is going to have a lot of exaggerated sentiment. And they may say things like, well, when people find out how phony you are, because I'm an insider now with you, they don't know you like I know you. They're going to have a different opinion of you once I start telling about how awful of a person you are. And in retrospect, you realize I was being played. When empathy is in place in a relationship, it's not all about pretense. It's not about gaining an insider's position. True empathy is accompanied by characteristics like humility. Truly, the humble person's like, I don't want to make this relationship all about me, whereas quietly the narcissist is thinking, oh, it is all about me. Or true empathy is also accompanied by accountability. And by that, it's like, I want to know you, you can know me, and we can hold each other to good standards, and we can be encouragers to be good and healthy with one another. Narcissists don't think that way. True empathy is also accompanied by an intuitive way of thinking. In other words, there's a deep reasoning and a well-conceived idea for why you love and you care and you're tuned in. Whereas with narcissists, over time you realize these are not deep thinkers in the sense of being intuitives. These are just people who ask what works and what's going to get me what I want, and that's pretty much it. True empathy is also accompanied by staying power. It's not something that just kind of comes and goes. So you're going to have some angst once you begin realizing that a narcissist has been using dark empathy with you. And most of the time that you are able to spot the dark empathy, it's going to be after the fact. But I am hoping that you can decide, well, I'm not going to give up on empathy. It's something that I believe in, but I'm going to go back and say about how quickly they work. I'm going to realize that patience and just kind of a slow and steady way of engaging with people is the way to go. And I'm hoping that you can continue to remain committed to the love that's attached to empathy, realizing that narcissists don't love. They just simply use. It's a sad thought, isn't it? Now, I hope this gives you some good awareness and insight with respect to the way that some of the narcissists in your world might operate. If you've not already done so, I would encourage you to hit the subscribe button, and we'll have more videos coming your way. I want you to be informed. Knowledge is power, and the more you understand this, the more you can maintain your own healthiness separate from the scheming that they bring to you. It could be that as you are sifting this out, you could use some therapy. I'm pleased to have a sponsor with the BetterHelp people, and the link is below that they can take you to online therapy. There's a whole team of licensed professional therapists going to assist you, and if that's a need that you would be able to take advantage of, I would strongly encourage you to do that. Speaking of therapeutic, I have my therapeutic courses. And each course has multiple videos with written materials and questions that will guide you in a therapeutic direction. Ready, Set, Connect, about having good connection skills. This is me, about establishing boundaries in your life, and that's actually been the one course that's been so most best received. Also, we have Free to Be, about finding yourself despite the controllers in your life. And then in addition, we have my podcast. Those of you who are in the podcast world, we have my books and other resources. It's sad to say that when somebody gives the appearance of having some initial empathy, you have to slow down and just think that's nice, but I'm not going to get so pulled in that I'm going to get used. But sometimes it just happens. The more you're onto it, though, the more you can have your alternative way of engaging with people. And I'm hoping that you can decide, I'm going to be the kind of person, when you see empathy, it's going to be the real thing. Those of us here on Team Healthy want to be givers of dignity, respect, and civility. And I'm hoping that in being that kind of person, it will still allow you, despite some of these controllers and narcissists, it can allow you to remain a person of peace.